Welcome back to the Weekend Chat. Episode 2 is here. And today we're talking fantasy football business and building something completely different in the sports world. I'm joined by Jackson and Robert, aka Wells, from Prediction Strike, the world's first fantasy sports stock exchange. We get into how Prediction Strike started, how these two got involved, and what it's like launching a company where you can literally invest in players like stocks. Plus, of course, we talk some fantasy football and how stock prices really change based on what happens on the field. This one's for sports fans, the fantasy junkies, and anyone dreaming about turning an idea into something real. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here's my convo with Jackson and Wells from Prediction Strike. Hey, well, welcome into the Daily Dynasty Show. I'm here joined by Jackson and Robert from Prediction Strike, and let's just open the floor here. Jackson, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having us on the show. Excited to talk some PS and fantasy football.
Heck yeah, man. I'm excited about it too. Robert, how you doing?
I'm living well, just working on this whole VO3 thing simultaneously, and we're here today, so I'm excited.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Well, let's just kind of jump right into it. So, maybe each of y'all can maybe just say from your different perspectives or whatever, but what exactly is Prediction Strike?
Yeah, I can start off with this. I mean, Prediction Strike, it's been evolving a lot lately as far as the UI goes. We added Sparks back in September, but I'd say kind of at the core of what Prediction Strike is, it is the stock market for investing in players. That's why it was originally founded. That's why our founders, Devin and Brad, created it in the first place, was to sort of give sports fans an alternative to the traditional gambling route to, track the players they like financially, invest in them in maybe a more like risk averse way, with the flagship stock market on Prediction Strike. Let's say you're in a sports book, you might place like the over on a super random, but a Damian Lillard PRA. And if that misses, you lose all your money on Prediction Strike if you're holding Damian Lillard shares. And he has, an off night, one night, your stock is probably only going to go down between like 1 and 8 percentage points. You're barely going to lose any of your money. And if you keep holding, you can recoup those gains with like a couple positive nights. So that's why it was created initially, I think. And it's definitely been evolving, but.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to put it simply, imagine you were to take Robinhood and you were to take DraftKings and you were to form a baby. That is essentially what we're trying to do here at Prediction Strike, is give people a market that they can invest in their favorite players just like they would in any sort of other market. Of course, you have opportunities like a DraftKings or any other sportsbook that you can think of, but more often than not, you're going to get limited pretty quickly and get ran out there with your actual sharp player. Prediction Strike allows you to utilize that knowledge in a much more intelligent way. So if you knew that Tyrese Halliburton was going to be a star, albeit horrible timing on my end, you could have feasted off of that, because I do remember like when he got traded to the Indiana Pacers and I made a bold prediction that this guy was the next Magic Johnson. Unfortunately, the career does not seem to be going that way anymore.
Right.
Unfortunately, to our favorite man of Adam Silver. So gotta love him and his scheduling. But aside from that, the main point of Prediction Strike is, to give an opportunity for people to highlight their ball knowledge in a way that is like a stock market, because if you know ball in the actual stock market, you're going to get paid. So why not know ball in the actual ball market?
Yeah, and I think that's what really gravitated me to it. I think it was maybe 2 years ago was the first time I, came across Prediction Strike, and that the marketing of the stock market of sports. I just thought that idea was very, very cool because, like you guys have said, and like we all know, buying in on a player, hopefully when they're low, right? Like you want to take that ball knowledge. You want to be the one that can read between the weeds and really find those guys before they get too big. And it never hurts. Like maybe your favorite guy is Chase Brown, right? Like maybe that's your favorite guy. He's going into year 3 right now, but he's got the share price of $4.09, right? But you still want to get in on that. And a share price like that is very low comparative to some other running backs, whether it's year 3, year 4, bigger names, and sometimes even smaller names. So trying to find the good deals on Prediction Strike, I feel like, is the fun, but also, again, the stock market side is that. So that was what launched Prediction Strike, was the stock market of sports. That's going to be, that's Prediction Strike, right? Like that was how it was originally founded.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. I would say until last year, all that we offered on the app and the website was the stock market trading.
Sweet. So how did each of you, like Jackson, maybe you can go first and then Robert, how did each of you guys maybe come across Prediction Strike but also get involved with Prediction Strike?
Yeah, it was kind of a funny story for me. I mean, I've always been into sports. I never really saw myself going down like the sports route as a career, really. Like I did some like sports management courses at the beginning of college, kind of decided it wasn't my thing. So I ended up studying international relations at Boston University. Got my degree in that and sustainable development. Obviously has nothing to do with what I do for a living now, but I worked right out of college. I worked at Environment Massachusetts for a bit, lobbying the 100% Green Act. And then my, this is actually hilarious. My mom ran into Devin, the CEO of the company at a Starbucks, and my mom is a super chatty person
Yeah.
and just started talking him up. And she was like, "Oh, my son would be super interested in this." So, I sent an or a resume over to Devin. A few months after that, I was interning with Prediction Strike, interned with them for about a year. Now I do community management and like product lifecycle marketing.
Heck yeah, man. Shout out to the mom on that one, huh?
For sure. No, shout out to my mom. She really plugged it with Devin there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut up, moms. Yeah, for me, I saw an ad that eventually turned into an opportunity. So when I was in my third year of college, I was just scrolling through and it's like, oh, stock market for sports. I was like, oh, this is exactly kind of what I have in mind. A
Mm.
buddy of mine and I went to the Bahamas for his 18th birthday. I happened to play lacrosse at the time, and I ran the board when it came to lacrosse bets. Since then, haven't been as lucky. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, how do we find something that like I can actually use my knowledge on? And that popped
Yeah.
up on my page, and I was like, I gotta get involved with this
Mm.
somehow. Now there was a guy called the name of Nico who's now started his own venture. But he was the guy kind of running the social media thing at the time, and he had an ambassador program. And I was like, how the hell do I get involved with this? Because he did not want to talk to me whatsoever. He's like,
Oh wow.
no, you're really annoying. Let's not have any interest here. But
Yeah.
eventually, with enough poking and prodding from my end, I got to the number one ambassador and got an internship with Prediction Strike, then eventually turned into the job that it is now.
Mm.
So it was a lot of poking and prodding from my end, and they're like, all right, fine, we'll give this kid a chance eventually. And now we're here.
Hey, persistence. That's right. That's right. So, you guys, you're working with Prediction Strike now, each in your own different roles. And, Jackson, I know you said what yours was. Robert, what exactly like is your role with Prediction Strike?
So I'm the social media manager, and
Okay.
just mainly kind of garnering exactly what we do with content. But as you can see on like TikTok lives or whatnot, I also have annoying opinions about fantasy football that
Yeah.
tends to get people going.
It seems like you are the face over on TikTok. Maybe not like Instagram, but it
Mhm.
seems like you are the face of Prediction Strikes TikTok over there. So, what has been some of the challenges, some of the struggles, maybe for you guys personally, and maybe with the company, brand itself, getting to this point behind the scenes, maybe some other people wouldn't even know about or consider?
I'll say like the kind of biggest one we run into every single day. It's the lack of actual footage. Like we
Mm,
cannot use NBA, we cannot use NFL. Any sports program will not let you use on the field footage. So it's like from
Or
what
it's
I've
like
noticed, yeah.
if you see a company with like that's like a company like DraftKings or something that is posting that content, it's because they have a deal with that sports promotion.
right.
So
So
yeah.
like anytime we post anything, it's like, oh yeah, you had an NBA player like dribbling the basketball court, like ball on the court, or like Tyreek Hill runs for a touchdown, right?
Mm.
Like can't post that. Even though it could have been like a really sick clip, can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Which at first we could do, and then the NBA was like, cut it. Same thing
Wow.
with the NFL. And then MLB gave us a suspension from Instagram for like a week because we posted a
Wow.
highlight clip of someone celebrating.
Wow.
So leagues
Yeah,
are fun.
because so is that that's like just for the marketing side, or would that even be just like regular videos?
I think that's just more so from the marketing side because we're full on selling a product about athletes and whatnot. We're
Right.
like, all right, we have to have some form of partnership or whatever.
Mm,
For company like people that aren't companies, I think you're much more safe.
right. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think maybe Jackson, maybe you can, maybe say another thing here, but that is tough because I remember my first time a couple of years ago when I first started running ads like for different companies. I'm not as like maybe promotional videos where it's a collab video. That's completely different. But running an actual ad, yeah, that was the first time I ran into. Hey, you can't use. I think it was NBA actually. It was a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and I was making videos like how well they were nowhere near as how they are now, but
I'll
I was
say they
making
look
videos.
crisp now, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I appreciate it. I was making videos, kind of the editing and quick editing and stuff like that, but obviously you want to use the on court, the on field, like it just makes it it makes it look better, obviously. But I remember when I sent that in the first time, they were like, "Hey, no, you gotta completely." And I had like just the nature of how I used to do stuff. I would make videos and then delete it after I was done. Like, I don't need this on my whatever I was. I think I was using an older phone, so like it didn't have a lot of space. So I'd quickly edit it, delete it. I sent it in. They were like, "Hey, we like it, but you just need to take all that film out of the on court." And I was like, "Dang!" So I had to completely redo it, send it back in. They were like, okay, it can't have even pictures of them on the court. You need to do like it needs to be they're walking to the court. They're nothing on the court, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was definitely a struggle at first. But maybe Jackson, is there anything personally with you that maybe with the brand that maybe you have struggled with over the last couple years? Whether that's seeing, I don't know, but maybe something that other people wouldn't even think about for you personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like there's things I would say, and this isn't obviously just on me. This is like something the entire company has to deal with in like pretty much all facets of what we do. But it's really hard to both of the things that we offer on the app, both products that we offer, Sparks and Stocks, are inherently very difficult to project for, or at least like relative to, the projections needed by most sites or by sports books, because you need for the stocks, you need the projections to track and like compound accurately over time. So the projections need to not only be consistent for like a single game, it needs to be like the look back window needs to be right. Like it needs to be building up on itself in the right way for every single player. Otherwise, there can be like huge discrepancies. And so it's tough, like with just a single data provider, especially like we have now. So it's still something that we're working on. Like we're flirting with other data providers to bring in new lines all the time and stuff. So that's difficult. And then on the Spark side of things, like that's also really difficult to project for too, because it's binary. So one player can make up for the other player. So you need to like inherently give a little bit less leeway to the user on those, so that the projections have to be a tiny bit higher than the actual baseline projections for the stock. So it's just weird stuff that you don't really think about, like with the sports stock market with Sparks versus maybe like a sports book.
And I want to get into Sparks here in a second, but kind of sticking with the stock market side, that is something that maybe I didn't even think about is like, obviously, like the stock market, it's got to go up, it's got to go down, compounding over time correctly. And I feel like that too, maybe, people on the outside are like, well, how are they even coming up with these values? How are they coming up with these prices? But it actually is a third party, correct? That is making these decisions.
It's a fully third-party data provider. It's sports data.
Sweet. Alrighty. Well, I want to ask two more things here, and then I do want to get into Spark. So, number one, what are some of the big things going on today with Prediction Strike? Like right now, what are some of the big things happening with Prediction Strike?
Jackson, you want to lead this one?
Sure, yeah. I mean, so we it's the summer, right? So to be honest, it's the slowest time of year for not only us, but a lot of other companies in the space.
Officially, as of last night, I think I saw a video
Yeah.
that said as of last night, it's like the official lull for sports. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's a dead time.
So
Starting
yeah,
today.
it's a lot of baseball, if I'm being honest with you, isn't where we want it to be right now in terms of how much we can actually offer to people. So that's kind of a huge thing for us right now is continuing to optimize baseball, just because one thing that's annoying is that our data provider didn't do projections for spring training. So we couldn't test anything out during spring training. So anything new that we want to try to implement has to be tested during the middle of the season. So like it's a lot of baseball changes going on right now. Like you can't even get pitcher sparks on Prediction Strike right now, so that's top priority. But basically, I think this summer is a lot about building out a lot of new stuff. Like I can't say too much about it, but you're 100% going to see new features on the app like very soon here. You're going to see a complete work to like how the social tracking and the leaderboard in app look. So that's pretty much the focus right now, I'd say, for the summer. And there's going to be a good couple of changes that I would say improve both the UI and just like gives you access to a lot more things to do on the app. So
Heck yeah. Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess kind of to loop back to like a previous question as well, it's just like our team has so many things that they're trying to work on because at the end of the day, this is a startup that there's a lot of things that we are trying to build. Like Jackson's talking about with Sparks, there's other like little things from a product standpoint that they also need to spend their time on.
Mm.
So it's just challenging all around of like what can we really get done in a quickly man, especially when we are in the midst of MLB season, which for what it's worth isn't the most popular sport in the world, but there is 100% an audience for it. So it's like trying to get people the right stuff in the right time. Only thing I can really think to do more than anything is be a talking head on TikTok on occasion and
Right.
see if people come stop by.
And you forget that, it's interesting you just said that. You do forget the Prediction Strike is still a startup because it just seems like it's so much bigger than a startup. In my opinion, I found it 2 years ago, and, maybe obviously it was smaller then. But point being, right now, it seems like Prediction Strike is so much smaller than, the words of a startup. But that is true, though. Sometimes you forget that. I do want to ask this. So here's, two questions about it. So number one, what exactly is Sparks? So, can you maybe dive deep into what is Sparks and how does it work?
So I'm sure we've all placed a wager before. If not, then I'll explain it. So more often than not in wagering, you'll end up getting hit by a hook or just miss your bet by like 1 point or something. We wanted to give the people a chance to essentially get rid of that, if you will. So imagine you took, trying to think of a good example from last night, but like Shea and Benedict Mathurin. I'm rather confident both those guys both sort of their projections, but in the chance that one of them goes down with an injury or misses their projection or some point, the other player will be able to help hit the actual projection you're trying to go. I'm probably not doing a great job of verbalizing this, but imagine you have 110 pounds. Maybe Jackson explain this one a little bit better because my words are getting jumbled on this.
Maybe we could also throw some visual cues on the screen while we're explaining it too.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's basically right now we only give the option for combining two players, but the plan is to offer like combos of 3 and 4 players in the future. But right now it's just 2. You have 2 players. I'd say the most different thing about it is like what Wells was saying is the binary aspect of it is like, let's say you put 2 players like Mathurin and Shea together, they might have for a 2x payout on that spark, right? And you can scale the payout between 2x and 10x. That combination of Shea and Mathurin might have projected fantasy points total of 65 for 2x. But let's say you think you're going to go over that. You buy 1 spark. If that spark hits, you double your money for 2x. And then maybe you say, hey, I think I'm even comfortable with scaling this up to 10x, which would then maybe raise that combined projected total up to like 90 or something. And then if they go over 90, you 10x your money. So you have the option to go between 1.5x and 10x, scale it up and down. And yeah, the binary aspect is kind of what sets it apart, I'd say, from anything you can do on any other DFS sites.
Right. So like, let's say you have the combined fantasy points of 2 players is set at 65. And if one goes down, then let's say they went down when they had 25 fantasy points. I'm just kind of spitballing here. If the other one rises to the occasion and gets 41 fantasy points on his own, then the 2 together, they've now hit that spark, if you will.
Precisely, yeah.
Sweet. And so what is the future? So okay, before I get to the future, I do want to ask this. You did say that the plan for Sparks, because I noticed during the NFL season, it's definitely fun, but it's like you said, there's only 2. You can only pick 2 players, and that's it. So you're saying that the plan is to get more players involved with Sparks to where you can have 3, 4, possibly even maybe 5, but definitely get around like that 3, 4 mark.
Yeah, both that I think is on the way. I think probably maybe even sooner than that too, because it's already in its beta phase, is unders on Sparks, which are very fun. You can do right now, like it's kind of random which ones you can and can't, but if you were to go on the app right now, you'd probably be able to find like 1 or 2 unders to pick from on today's Spark slate. But it's still like in its beta testing phase.
Right. Heck yeah. So what is the future? I want to end the Prediction Strike segment here on this. What does the future look like for Prediction Strike? Whether it's the things you're going to bring to the app, social media, the company itself, you guys, what does the future look like for Prediction Strike down the pipe?
A more interactive stock market available with all sports, I think, is the true end game. Like when you talk to Devin and Brad, like that is the one thing that they consistently refer back to. It's like they want to make the stock market product as strong as possible for the users. But like what you'll see with other platforms like Underdog, for example, and realistically DraftKings now too, like they have draft features available. We all have to have some sort of market to pull in users. That's why we're looking at Sparks, for example, because we know it's a little bit different than Pick'em. So we're just utilizing these resources to get everyone to the stock market. So at the end of the day, that is our basis, that is our true home game, and that is what we want to thrive.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally. I think the only thing I'd add on to that is like the goal is to keep everybody in the app for as long as possible. Like the goal is we want this trading to happen in the app. We want the social to happen in the app. We want the research to happen in the app. And so building out the app, like in the best way to do that too, I think is kind of a long-term goal.
Sweet. That sounds incredible. And man, it's been fun to kind of deep dive into Prediction Strike, what exactly it is, all the different aspects of it, what's coming down in the future. And, me being a fan of Prediction Strike, I'm incredibly excited for it. That being said, transition here. All right. So, we can go one by one here. Jackson, maybe start with you, end with Wells. The fountain of knowledge, so Jackson has stated. Okay, what is your top 3 favorite 2025 wide receivers for fantasy football not named Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. One that kind of popped into my mind that I'm really looking forward to see how they play out, especially with Purdy, who I guess I have a bit more questions about. But Juwan Jennings just looked incredible anytime one of the big pieces over there was off the field. McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, multiple top 10 finishes over the year. I think he finished in the top 25 wide receivers right around there. So I think 100% he has the chance. I think my question is how good can these 49ers be? But I don't think there's really a doubt in my mind that he's going to like lead that team in receiving production.
Nice.
Trying to think who I want to start off with here. Probably Puka Nacua. I'll go with the
Nice.
simple one.
like
Puna
that.
Matata, Puka Nacua. I just think it's as simple as you look at how many targets he's likely going to get. Just don't overthink it. I know it sounds simple logic, but I'm a big person that overthinks week 17 in correlation there because I'm always about the championship money.
Yeah.
And he gets to play the Atlanta Falcons, and I can't think of a more fun game environment than 2 Sean Payton wide receiver ones going at it for the whole game.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that Puka Nacua could be the easy answer, and everyone wants to go, well, Devonta Adams is guaranteed to get all the touchdowns in the red zone. Well, it's like, well, I do think Stafford has a chance to throw 40 touchdowns. They're just not all guaranteed to go to Devonta Adams.
Yeah. And I think
And
Puka Go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and Puka's another guy too who's proven that like he can produce with another big name next to him on the field.
Absolutely. And I think the outlook that some people have of like, I feel like you sit in 2 camps when it comes to fantasy football. I feel like you either like the wide receiver that is the true wide receiver one with nobody around him, right? Like you want just the room to just be him. Or you like those wide receiver ones that have the Devontae Adams to their side, the T. Higgins to the Jamar Chase, the Devonta Smith to the A.J. Brown to help alleviate the eyes on the defense and actually give that much more opportunity to the true wide receiver one. Sometimes it's I think it's nice to have a healthy medium, like to know, okay, some wide receiver 2s might actually just be neck and neck with that wide receiver 1, and it might hurt, sure. But I don't think Devontae Adams is actually going to be destroying Puka Nacua. In fact, had they not brought in Devontae Adams, I don't know how it would have looked for Puka Nacua this year. Not that he couldn't still finish top 10, but would it be that top 5 finish that I'm projecting for Puka Nacua this season in fantasy football? I mean, he's a top 5 guy for me this year. I think he could definitely do it, and I think Devontae Adams landing there is just going to help that much more, with the leaving of Cooper Kupp, bringing Devontae Adams. I think it's going to be fun to watch. The first guy that I wanted to bring up was Rashee Rice. He's not suspended this season. Stretch what he did last season out before Patrick Mahomes decided to nosedive into his knee. You stretch that out to a full season, he would have finished a top. I think it was wide receiver 4 was like his projected finish. Just what he did in the first 4 games, stretch it out, right? Small sample size. But what he did do would have finished as the wide receiver 4 last season. And at the tail end of 2 years ago, it's very similar to that Amon-Ra St. Brown path of like, Amon-Ra St. Brown was nothing until the last 6 games of his rookie season. And that's the same thing with Rashee Rice. He had a couple maybe okay games, but towards the end of that rookie season, he was on fire. Came out last season as the de facto wide receiver 1 for Kansas City. His recovery has been, everybody right now is in the best shape of their life, so take for it what you will. But the recovery's been good, and again, he's been there at OTAs, and he is not being suspended in 2025. It's being pushed to 2026. So whatever that looks like then, whatever. But for this season, I'm excited about Rashee Rice.
Oh, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, I'm happy you brought up the last part of his rookie season as well, because everyone loves to just not point that out when they're doing their analysis on this. It's like, yes, we can keep talking about those first few games he was alive, but like this is just a continuation of what we saw this season prior.
Right.
There's no reason to be out on this price. I guess my kind of question for you is like, what is the highest you would be willing to draft Rashee Rice?
Okay, that's a good question, because before we knew about the suspension, whether or not like it was up in the air, you had to make your claim a few weeks ago. And around that point, man, it was tough for me to take him any higher than wide receiver 20. And I know that's like way low, but I can't take that risk if he's going to be suspended for who knows how long, the recovery. But now that we know that he's not suspended, now that we know he's going to probably be there week 1, man, I'm excited. He's the de facto. I personally have him finishing a top 10 wide receiver, and that list of names, let me see if I can pull it up. The list of names of guys around that, the list for me of the top 10 wide receivers that I have in the area, right now I've got him, spoiler alert for my draft guide that's coming out in July, probably by the time this actually gets uploaded. I've got him around wide receiver 7, right? So am I taking him that high? That's the ceiling for me. I would be more comfortable around wide receiver 10 to wide receiver 12 if I can get him there. But wide receiver 7, you're looking at guys like Nico Collins, Drake London, Jackson Smith and Jigba, T. Higgins, all those types of guys. And I think Rashee Rice is going to finish above all of them. Nico Collins may be neck and neck, but I can see him finishing above all of them. So anyway, that's me. Wide receiver 7's the ceiling, but around 10 to 12 I think is where I'm comfortable taking him.
Love it.
Love it.
All right, so Jackson, what is your second receiver you're excited about this season?
I mean, how can you not be excited about Malik Neighbors out in New York? The just absolutely elite workload with the terrible quarterback play, just not a lot of help around him. Russell Wilson, definitely out of his prime, but I'd say still an upgrade, a market upgrade at that. So, I mean, and that, they have the young quarterbacks over there too. I think his situation's a lot better. The target rate was the target rate the highest in the league or top 3? It was definitely at least top 3. But I think that just with a better situation overall, this dude's going to explode. I'm super excited to see him play.
I am too. I think this year is going to be much better with Jackson. Jackson Dart probably won't start bars until about week 6. But Russell Wilson, listen, anything is better than what they had last season. It is what it is. So I'm excited about it as well.
Trying to think of who are the many guys that I try to flag plan each year, because that's always how it is with the receiving position. We'll go with this rookie between the two. And a lot of people want to overthink this receiver because obviously we all look at draft profiles, etc. But this is how I look at it. This organization has had historical great success with round 2 receivers. We know that. They decided to take Matthew Golden round 1. That shows an elite amount of confidence in this organization. Prior to Jordan Love getting injured in week 1, he was considered to be an MVP candidate and had one of the highest projected touchdown totals of the whole entire group, which I also think is very interesting. Then on top of that, we take somebody that I think knows more ball than realistically all of us, maybe not Spencer, but Steve Smith Sr.
Yeah.
He has him as his wide receiver 1 for this class. And now, yes, he did get picked at the 20-something pick here, but I don't know. This just feels like something that everyone's willing to just step out on because it's like, oh, it's the Packers. They have a rotation, whatever. That was just last year. Outside of that, like the alpha was getting pegged with targets.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take kind of flag plant there with Matthew Golden and be like, this is going to be a guy that's just extremely underpriced. I think in the dynasty format, him and Tet should be going right next to each other. And I'm a big Tet guy, but I'll save that conversation for another time.
Yeah, I think the love for Matthew Golden, definitely. I mean, I feel the same way. I think personally, not like it matters in this type of context of a conversation, just thought I'd throw this out there. How do y'all feel about Kyle Williams, Patriots wide receiver, rookie? I'm a huge fan. I got to be honest. I can't lie. I'm a huge fan of Kyle Williams, and I don't know, man. I just see a lot of Rashee Rice in his game. His separation is actually really, really good. And that's the biggest thing that drew me to Rashee Rice after year one, that a lot of people, I think, overlook about Rashee Rice's game. After his rookie season, he was a top 3 wide receiver coming out of his rookie season in separation in the NFL. And I could be wrong. I think he was number 1. But I know he was top 3 in the NFL after his rookie season with separation. And that's huge. If you can be that good at separation in the NFL, plus match it with the speed, oh, brother, I think you're going to be pretty good.
I'm excited about that, to watch that Patriots team this year at least. Kyle Williams, definitely a nice pickup for them.
Yeah, I agree. I would say Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like Kyle Williams. It's just my concern is this is the highest priced round 3 receiver we've ever had. And that is the only thing I can poke in the profile of, just like, well, why are we all willing to say this guy is that much better than Pat Bryant, for example, who I think could be like a really late sleeper in a draft. But I don't know. I want to be there with you on the Kyle Williams thing. It's just like I have such a hard time being super excited when everyone's on the same page. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, this was probably why Cam Ward got to Miami, was because of the help of Kyle Williams as well. And the Patriots need a receiver. Just my question is, what if it's Demario Douglas? Like, and if it is a Rashee Rice's type of ascension, then that probably means he's going to have a back half that you want in fantasy rather than a front half.
Yes, he is much more of a dynasty guy than he is, we're talking, redraft this season, because Kyle Williams, I'm not looking to have him in redraft probably at all, because it is going to be
okay, we're on the same page there.
Yes. It is going to be a back half, I think. I think I was saying this on the podcast last week of that. To me, if it works out with Kyle Williams, then it will be because it was an Amon-Ra type path, a Rashee Rice type path, where by the end of the year, he's the de facto wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. But it's not going to be in week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's not going to be any time around there. He's a stash, really, for Dynasty rather than a redraft, add, in my opinion.
All right, we're on the exact same page there, because I'm just seeing him go so high in drafts right now. I'm like, ooh, you're not going to get that. His projection week 1 is going to be like for what, maybe 2-3 receptions and like 36 yards. Like,
he's going to be battling pretty hard, because you got Stephon Diggs, you got Demario Douglas, and then of course Kyle Williams. He's the rookie. It's nice, but he's going to battle all season for that spot, and then also to prove himself. It wasn't like Rashee Rice at the beginning of his rookie season was anything. Like, we didn't know. I remember going into that season as avoid Kansas City wide receivers, because you just don't know who it's going to be.
100%.
But anyway, moving into, speaking of Cam Ward, that kind of does talk into my second wide receiver I'm all in for this season, which is Calvin Ridley. I'm a huge fan of Calvin Ridley this year, and a lot of people, they're criticizing maybe how he played last year. Will Levis. That's all I got to say.
Mayo man.
But Calvin Ridley, man, I'm super excited about him this year with Cam Ward, and I think it's just going to be fun. And right now you're getting him, I believe he's going off, last I checked, I think he's like wide receiver 32 or something, wide receiver. It's way late in the 30s is where he's going right now, wide receiver off the board. So, and I think that's an incredible value, considering I think he's going to finish a top 30 wide receiver. So, again, I don't even think you're drafting him at the floor. I think you're drafting him, again, just at a good value, and I think you can get Calvin Ridley around that wide receiver mid-30 range, and he's going to perform top 25 is a hot take, but definitely top 30.
I've heard people say he's a dark horse for the wide receiver 1. I'm not going to lie.
Wow.
I wouldn't go that far. Like, I'm a big Cam Ward bull, but I do think he is probably one of the most mispriced receivers in fantasy right now. The target upside is far too great.
I agree. Jackson, let's close this out here. Who is your third favorite wide receiver for fantasy football this season?
Man, the one I had written down was Puka, but I'll go somewhere different because Wells did him. I like CeeDee Lamb, and I feel like he could be undervalued a little bit this year. I love the addition of George Pickens. He's obviously like a deep shots guy. CD's more of like an intermediary routes, yards after catch. So I think that complements each other super well. Obviously, Dak's back has the upside of like a top 5 QB. Super good. They have a great connection with each other. So, I mean, I think he obviously has like honestly wide receiver one potential. I like him.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. And I think the addition of George Pickens, it goes back to that conversation we were having of had they not brought in George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, he is that top tier guy. He can do it on his own. But I think bringing in George Pickens just helps that much. Is his target share, or maybe is the targets going to go down a little bit? Sure. But is he going to be is he going to have a easier time with the defenses this year because of George Pickens? I think so. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of CeeDee Lamb this season. Well, so you got for your last one?
That's what I'm debating on between the two. I think we're going to rock with, just because I think I can talk about this in another one, I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. A hot
Let's go,
take
Wells.
I have here is that Jalen Waddle is greater than Tyreek Hill this season. And I know it's controversial, but there's this whole entire thesis of like year 5 receivers that are going to break out or whatever. There's always a trend like that every single year that people like to point out. And right now they're trying to really compare that with Elijah Moore, which I think is interesting. Sidebar, I think Curtis Samuel's the actual answer there. But back to Jalen Waddle, like he has basically been priced in the second round for the past 2 seasons or so. Maybe it was just last season, but like this is a guy who has untapped ceiling. We know what the wide receiver one of this offense can bring. We've seen historically with receivers, once they hit that cliff, they just kind of die off, whether we want to admit it or not. Like they don't get better. I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, look what happened with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley last season. Okay, let's also provide the context for their situations. They have 2 of the best mobile quarterbacks in the whole entire league. Those linebackers are shitting their pants. Excuse my language. They don't know what to do. So yes, you're going to be able to get more efficiency from them. With receivers, I don't think it's guaranteed that same way. Maybe Tyreek is better. After all, we just saw him run that really nice sprint or whatever it was. But I'd like to just think that some of these things tend to be a bit more linear. I think you're getting a massive discount on Jalen Waddle. If he's the wide receiver one for the Miami Dolphins this season, which is very, very live going into year 5, he's going to break fantasy.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not. Listen, I'll just be honest. Yeah. I'm not necessarily there with Waddle this season. The logic makes sense though, because like you said, when the cliff hits, whether it's for running backs, whoever it's for, when it hits, it tends to hit pretty hard, and there is no they don't get better at that point. It's just how hard and fast is this cliff going to hit, and is it going to be a slow burn, or is it just like look at Keenan Allen right now? I mean, is it just is it tough? So. Yeah, definitely. Hey, listen, definitely good points for why you should be all in on Jalen Waddle this year. I think my last one I want to bring up here is going to be Ladd McConkey. I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey. He went to high school about 20 minutes from where I live right here, so got to represent Dalton boy. But no, I'm a huge fan of Ladd McConkey. I just think that his game with Justin Herbert is incredible, and I think that being matched with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, bringing in other weapons, and I think, again, listen, the run game that Harbaugh likes to run is only going to open up the pass game. So I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey, what he was able to do in his rookie season. I think he's going to have that sophomore leap to do even better this season. So I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey going into 2025 for sure.
I love it.
Love it.
I want to talk about some players that we're all out on here. So I'm going to just kind of blitz through mine. The 3 players that I'm out on this season is going to be James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Patrick Mahomes. Now, I know the last one's a little controversial, but I'll explain. Kenneth Walker, he's never finished above RB18. He's always injured. He's never played a full season, and right now he's priced as the RB14. Just off the top of my head, the other running backs that are going in that area are Breece Hall, Omarion Hampton, Chuba Hubbard, and I can't remember the 4th one I always bring up. But there's running backs like that going in that area that I'd rather have over the Kenneth Walker this season. Breece Hall especially. I love Chuba Hubbard, but if Breece Hall and Chuba Hubbard and Omarion, those guys are going around the same page of Kenneth Walker at RB14, give me those guys. Which kind of goes into James Cook. He's going off the board as RB13 right now. And same guys, Breece Hall, Chuba Hubbard, Omarion Hampton, all those guys are going off the board relative, I think, Chase Brown, he's the other one as well. Chase Brown is in that pool of 4 guys all going around the same area with James Cook and Kenneth Walker. So give me Chase Brown, Breece Hall, Omarion Hampton, and Chuba Hubbard over those 2 guys. With James Cook, it's a mixture of 2 things. The contract issue hasn't been resolved. And how many times have we seen running backs, wide receivers, whoever, but these guys lead this into, the preseason, God forbid the regular season, and hold out as long as they think they need to get the price that they think they deserve. And with James Cook, he's only really had one good season. Yes, his sophomore season was okay, but last year was an outlier in my opinion. I don't think what happened last year is who James Cook is year in and year out of his career. I mean, the guy had, I think, 14 or 16 rushing touchdowns. It was insane. The differences between the Bills' offenses in 2024 and 2023 are vastly different. And with Patrick Mahomes, the reason I'm out on him is I believe he's going off the board as the QB6, I think, right now. And so he finished QB11 last year and QB8 the year before. He hasn't finished a top 6 quarterback since 2022. And I don't think that this offense has changed enough. Sure, Rashee Rice is coming back, but I don't think they've changed enough for me to believe that Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden is going to go back to 2021, 2022 version of Patrick Mahomes. I just don't think that that's going to happen this year. Now, I am out on Kenneth Walker and James Cook. I'm out. Patrick Mahomes has an asterisk. If I can get him around QB9, QB10, I'll take him. But I'm not taking him at QB6. There's other quarterbacks in that range that I would much rather. Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is going to finish above Patrick Mahomes. That's kind of, with him, there's an asterisk. I'll take him at the value. But Kenneth Walker, James Cook, I'm out.
I can start us off here on the second one. I think I'm going to be out on Brock Bowers this year. Last year, I made the mistake of of getting in on tight ends a bit too early. It kind of bit me in the butt. Like, I picked tight ends early in multiple leagues, like the likes of like Laporta and Mark Andrews and stuff like that. And I'm just not doing the same thing this year. Obviously, he was amazing as a rookie, but it's going to be pretty much a new offense, new quarterback. Could always look elsewhere. You got the added competition in like Ashton Jeanty. Multiple other people on that team are going to get targets too. Again, I feel like tight ends like tend to regress a lot. His year last year was actually insane. So I feel like there's a lot of room for regression in year 2. So I just think he's a little bit too expensive right now. I'm probably not going to be drafting Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I mean, that's a tough take. But hey, listen, again, you make the good points for it. But yeah, Brock Bowers, he's a guy that, man, after year 1, you think, dang, how can I be out? But listen, you bring up good points. Wells, maybe who's a guy that you're out on?
I'm trying to decipher because I know you went with 3 off the rip, so I'll go with one cheaper than the first 2 I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna be out on Amon St. Brown, Derrick Henry, and James Conner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'll give quick reasoning for each of them. Derrick Henry, way past the age cliff and way past the touch carry mark. I'm sorry, the tread on the tires has to catch up at some point. But I wouldn't be surprised if I just jinxed him to another 2,000-yard season. I've been doing pretty well at that the past 2 years here. James Conner, the guy cannot stay healthy for his life. I believe Trey Benson is like the, whatchamacallit, skeleton key or one of them at the end of drafts that you can just unlock, and he's just going to have himself a time in that backfield with Trey Benson. But Amon St. Brown, the thesis is a little bit more elaborated in the sense of one of my first years of really getting into fantasy football. It was coming after the Rams Super Bowl year. And my buddy was just like, the Rams aren't going to die. They're going to be great. And I remember seeing them lose their center. And I was just like, oh, the team's going to suck next year because that's like your goalie in like any other sport. Like they're kind of the heart and soul of a lot of your team. And that same thing just happened here with the Detroit Lions. That's giving me some cause for concern. We're losing Ben Johnson. We don't know if Jared Goff is going to start seeing ghost without Ben Johnson. I think he's going to be a little bit better than people are expecting, to be completely blunt. But the thing that I think is very interesting is in the dynasty space, when you compare Amon St. Brown's metrics to Jameson Williams last year, they're really not that different. Like, in fact, Jameson Williams is already getting a lot of drumbeat from the coach saying like, hey, we're going to take him more. We're going to take him more. We're going to take him more. Like, he's going to be our guy. So what if like Amon St. Brown's knee is a little bit worse than it has been, or he gets injured or something like that? Like, to me, Jameson Williams kind of seems like a bit potentially very mispriced player. Whereas Amon St. Brown, it's like we've had great years with him, but maybe it's time for somebody else to take the reins there.
Would you say that it's a price thing, or would you say you're just totally out? Like if you can get Amon-Ra at a good price, you'll take him, or you're just going to miss this season because you just got a feeling with all the things you just added, maybe it would be better to take the value of Jameson Williams and get somebody completely different with those first, 10 picks of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, this is a projection-based game at the end of the day, so it's like if he was in like the late second, early third, 100%, I'd probably be smashing that pick because it's just like, oh, Amon's just completely mispriced. But based off where he's going right now, I just can't click him. I think there's far too great of opportunity cost with a lot of receivers, like Nick Caley being added for the Texans. I know he's not like the most enticing name in the world, but what do we love more than anything in fantasy? We love those Sean McVay tree coaches.
Yeah.
And maybe just maybe Nico has a Puka Nacua like season.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. I have not heard anybody say a take like that. And actually makes a ton of sense, man. I like that take a lot. Jackson, round us out here on the other two players you're out on this season.
Cool, yeah. I think one's going to be Garrett Wilson, and that's like with an asterisk if his situation doesn't change, like goes to a new team or anything. But I think on the Jets, I'm kind of out on him at his price. Um, he's had great production. Not going to say anything about his skills. I just don't think it's a good situation for him. I think they're going to be run heavy. His favorite routes are go routes. Fields sucks at go routes. I know they had chemistry from a long time ago, but that's definitely a long time ago. They played together like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm out on him at his price. I guess another player that I'm out on is probably Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback. I feel like it kind of goes against what you were saying with Ladd, maybe not so much from a fantasy perspective, but I feel like he's just been regressing and regressing and regressing. He's finished outside of the top 10, like all three of the last seasons. I'm just going to be avoiding him. I don't like that trajectory. He was great as a rookie. Passing numbers have dipped pretty bad since then. So yeah, I think I'm out.
And I think wide receiver you mentioned there is a pretty hot name. You're either in or out right now with him. So because some people listen, it's like because of that chemistry, they're back in with Garrett Wilson. But you got to remember too, Aaron Rodgers' season last year was not bad. Like his season last year, he was top 10 in passing yards, top 10 in passing touchdowns, top 10 in interceptions, lack thereof. So he actually did not have a bad season. It's just the fact that he was associated with the Jets. Sorry, Jets fans.
2 top 12 receivers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he didn't have a bad year last year, and I think Justin Fields coming in doesn't necessarily – I mean, we all know Justin Fields is not a better passer than Aaron Rodgers, so it's not like it's going to elevate either of those guys that much more. Now, does his game present opportunities for, maybe a Breece Hall and, of course, Justin Fields himself, who I'm all in on this year? Absolutely. But is it going to elevate Garrett Wilson back to that top 12 status? Don't think so. That being said, let's transition here. I got two more questions for you. Who is each of y'all's favorite NFL teams?
As you can tell from the jersey behind me, Texans fan here. Yeah, just been rocking with for quite a while now. I was a fan when I was a kid, and I stopped watching football for a while. And then once I got back into it in college, I was like, all right, let's find a team. Texans were pretty terrible. Family friends with Kevin Hogan, who I think is now in the XFL or something.
Wow.
But I was like, all right, let's see if we can find a Stanford connection here. Daddy Longneck Davis Mills was out there ripping the ball for some minute. So I was like, all right, let's buy into the Texans. And then we ended up with CJ Stroud, God willing. And now we're in a interesting pendulum with the Texans. So we'll see how we are this season.
Jackson?
My internet's being weird right now. Hold on, there we go. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a Dolphins fan. Lifelong Dolphins fan. Doesn't really make any sense because I've never lived in Florida or anything, but my entire family is from Florida. And I grew up with I'm from Portland, Oregon, which didn't have an NFL team. So, it's either basically you root for your parents' team or you root for the Seahawks, who are like a 3-hour drive away. My dad watched the Dolphins games every weekend, so I was just more into that. I have a bunch of signed Ronnie Brown memorabilia. That was like my favorite Dolphins player ever.
Yeah.
He was also a fantasy legend back in the day too. But yeah, I'm a Dolphins fan, man. I mean, the trajectory is obviously up and down with them. Tyreek Hill is kind of a nutcase. I kind of agree with Wells on Waddle's trajectory, though. I'm a big fan of the way he's been looking. He's been looking fast too, just objectively in the offseason drills and stuff. So happy with that. A-Chain, I mean, I don't think the outlook on A-Chain is amazing either. I feel like there's some serious signs of regression there. But I think the committee in the Dolphins running back room isn't the worst ever. Fan of Jonnu Smith. Made some okay additions in the draft. So, I mean, there's a ton of questions, obviously, with the Dolphins, but that's my team.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm a Philly Eagles fan. Never lived in
Go Birds.
Philadelphia, but yes, I'm an Eagles fan. My grandfather got me this like Letterman jacket that was like a baby size Letterman jacket when I was a child, like maybe 3 years old. That was the Eagles. So when I actually started watching football, maybe around like 6 years old, I literally just liked the Eagles because of that. But it wasn't a bad time. You got Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens, Todd Pinkston, Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins. So a great time to start watching them. And then of course, finally bringing it all home in 2017, and then again last year. But yeah, so I've been a huge Eagles fan my whole life. Of course, the other places, when I lived in North Carolina, also somewhat rooted for the Panthers. When we lived in Florida, I somewhat rooted for the Dolphins. But yeah, always been in the heart, it's an Eagles fan. So, but everything else, like that's the only Philly team. Like everything else is, I live in Georgia, so like everything else is like Georgia. So Atlanta Braves, Atlanta Hawks, Georgia Bulldogs, like it's all Georgia. But yeah, so okay, last question here. Way too early NFL predictions. What are those for y'all? And it can literally be anything. A player stat, a team winning a Super Bowl. This team's going to actually be so bad, it's funny. What is your way too early NFL prediction for 2025?
Jackson, you want to start this one?
Is it a bold prediction to say the Eagles repeat the NFC?
Hey, hasn't
Because I
happened
feel
in
like
a
it
long time,
happens.
but it
Yeah,
can happen.
yeah. How long has it been? I feel like it's been a minute.
I think it has been a decade, but maybe even. To be honest, I don't know who's the last one that repeated in the NFC East. But the point is, it's been a long time, long time.
Yeah, I think that might be where I go then. I mean, they looked insane. They trounced the Colts in the Super Bowl. They won 16 games. There are a lot of moving pieces there. A lot of the like it is particularly in the defense with the Eagles. I think the offense is just as sharp as last year. Um, and yeah, there's some changes, but there's still like Cooper Janty. A lot of the key pieces are still there. Um, yeah, I'm big on the Eagles. I think they can get the repeat here.
Heck yeah. Hey, I love it. I love
Yeah.
I'll give you three QB ones
it.
just
Alrighty.
because one of them I do think is interesting. I'm going to say JJ McCarthy will be a bust, which I think is very controversial in the fantasy community because we're all pricing him like he's going to be better than Sam Darnold,
Hmm.
which is more than likely true. Daniel Jones starts all 17 games for the Colts, which I think is very live to happen.
Hmm.
And then Justin Herbert has a Josh Allen-like season.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Hey, listen. Harbaugh did say like a couple months ago, like he plans to make Herbert a Hall of Famer. That is his goal, is to make Herbert a Hall of Famer. The only issue when it comes to fantasy with Herbert is how much Harbaugh plans to pound the rock. If he does this season. But hey, it could happen. It could
They say they
happen. We
want a
could see that.
mobile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could see that happen. I think my hot take is that the Jets make the playoffs. Justin Fields leads this team. I'm just to be honest, I'm not even going to lie here. I'm a Justin Fields stan, if you will. A little bit unfortunate most years, but when he's given like a full starting reign, yes, he himself for fantasy is good, and most of the time for the NFL, he's just an above average game manager with the ability to run. But I think with this Jets team, with Breece Hall, with Garrett Wilson, I think that the Jets could possibly make the playoffs. Now, again, this could easily fall flat on its face, but we're doing some NFL way too early predictions, some of them hot takes. So there you go. There is a hot take. Easy take could be that the Eagles go back to the Super Bowl. That's just an easy take. I can't just throw that one out there too easily.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. Jets making the playoffs. That's a hot take. And shout out to my buddy Ben. If the Eagles and the Steelers ever play each other in the face in the Super Bowl, shout out to Det because we'd be in a lot of it. We'd be going to that Super Bowl. So he's a lifelong Steelers fan. I'm an Eagles fan, so that'd be fun. But man, it has been incredible having you guys on the pod. Jackson, happy late birthday, by the way. Woo!
Thank you, brother. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, Jackson.
But
It's
yeah,
a
man,
great way to
Jackson.
celebrate on the Daily Dynasty show.
Hey, what a better way. What a better way.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, listen. Any last remarks, whether it be about prediction strike, anything you guys just want to say, before we get off here?
Make sure to use code DDS
Yes,
to sign
code
up for
DDS.
Prediction Strike if you have not done that yet. Also, I mean, I feel like I'm doing more of a DDS shout out here, but keep an eye out for those draft kits. You can get them for free if you use this code.
That's right.
Don't wait to use it. So
That's right. And by the time this show comes out, that's already going to be promoted as well. Use code DDS. You'll get the draft guide for free. Woo!
Hell yeah.
But, man, it's been awesome having y'all on here. With that being said, I appreciate all you guys listening to the show, and until the next one, see ya.
Peace, y'all.
peace out.
If you made it to the end of the interview, first of all, shout out and thank you to you. You're incredible. I can't thank you enough for joining in on this second episode of the Weekend Chat. It was so much fun getting to sit down and talk with Jackson and Robert, a.k.a. Wells, from Prediction Strike. You don't want to miss the next episode. Make sure you subscribe, leave a 5-star review. If listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a written review or a comment, if you will, if you're listening over on YouTube. Can't thank you guys enough, and until the next one, see ya.